Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Believe in Ole Miss podcast/show. As tonight we have, once again, Shay, Hodge, along with Mike Espy, our two former Ole Miss greats. And we're so excited to have you along for the ride tonight. As, of course, we come to you tonight, sponsored, of course, by BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. BetOnline, where the game starts. Use that promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your very first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Mike, Shay, the Rebels come in against Alabama on Saturday. Arguably one of the biggest games in Ole Miss history upcoming with the Crimson Tide. Maybe the shine is off a little bit after the loss to LSU. But let's talk about the Rebels just for a moment. Before we do, welcome into the show tonight.
Hey, man, thanks for having us, bro. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is an exciting time to say the least. If you look at this Ole Miss team, 8-1, 4-1 in the SEC, all the prognosticators are talking about how Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. Obviously, that could be debated for another day. By the end of the game on Saturday, I think we'll all say that Ole Miss has, quote unquote, played somebody.
Agree. Definitely agree.
Yeah, man, like you said, the prognosticators are really not high on Ole Miss right now, even with the one loss, but at the end of the day, they've gone out on the road, they've won, they played at home, they've won, with the exception of LSU. And as we all can see, LSU is on the incline with their play. So we're looking for some respect this weekend.
And Shay, coming to you just for a second. After that win over A&M, A&M obviously struggled a lot under Jimbo Fisher, but the way that Quinshon Judkins and the Rebels are able to run the football, that said a lot about this team, specifically down the last couple of games.
Yeah, it just showed us what our identity really is. We're more of a run-based team. Some teams have to find their identity throughout the season, and I think gauging from last year, was more of a passing team. I think the year before was more of a passing team. But by the numbers, honestly, he runs the ball a lot. He's always done it and done it by committee. And A&M game just showed us what we missed against LSU, having that dominant run game and being able to control it on the ground and having more than one person doing it. So A&M just showed us who we really are. And then we just mixing the pass in as we go forward, to make us more complete, 50-50, more closer to 50-50, making us harder to stop.
Yeah, this rushing attack's been really good. And Mike, looking at Quinshon Judkins, a freshman coming in, 1,064 yards already, 13 touchdowns, averaging over 100 yards a game at 115.1. Obviously, I don't know that anyone other than maybe Lane Kiffin expected a freshman to come in and have this big of an impact on a season, but Judkins has been a lot of fun to watch.
Man, it's incredible what he's been doing. He's been showing us who he is ever since game one. I think that they split carries more that first game. They had number 24 splitting the carries with him and Zach Evans. But he's a special athlete. No wonder why Lane Kiffin was sitting out at that Alabama game. There's that infamous picture of him sitting out there alone in Alabama watching him play. He identified that talent and he brought him in, and nobody could take that away from him.
And Shay, go ahead, Shay. I'd love your thoughts on Judkins. He's been absolutely phenomenal this year for the Rebels.
Yeah, I got a first-class view of him because I coach at Jackson Academy, and my head coach is from Alabama. They had to play against him. And so I got to hearing about him before the season even started and was saying how good he was. And I remember that infamous picture Mike is speaking of Lane Kiffin in Alabama in the cold. You can see the smoke coming from his mouth. It's so cold out there to watch him. And, just going back and watching his high school film and seeing what Lane Kiffin actually see. I couldn't even see it on film. I knew he was good, but I never would have thought he was being as special as he has been so far. Watching the early games, I told other people, that's not fans of Ole Miss, I was like, man, Judkins especially is nothing against Evans. Like, Evans is really, really good, but it's just the fact of how young he is. Like, freshmen don't come in built like that. They don't have the vision like that to run through tackles the way he can and just find holes. He get those down gritty yards, man, and then he could take it the distance. Like, it's magnificent what I'm seeing. I don't know what we are, 8-1, 9-1. Like, I remember Dexter doing it in like 6 games, had 1,000 yards. But like this is right up there on the scale of what Dexter did. And I call Dexter, me personally, call him the best player that ever played Ole Miss in my eyes, and he's right there with him with some of the things that he's doing right now.
Mike, the running back you're referring to is Ulysses Bentley, and
Yes.
he's someone that has been injured this year. But I had a conversation just earlier tonight, actually, and we were talking about the running back room at Ole Miss, leaving the Sugar Bowl. When you lose Matt Corral, you lose Snoop Connor, you lose Jerrion Ely, you lose Henry Parrish Jr. All of a sudden, and of course, Matt Corral, the quarterback, all of those runners are gone. Where does this team go? And what did Lane Kiffin do? He hit the portal. He hit it really hard. I had no idea that Ole Miss would be this good running the football. Obviously, Ulysses Bentley has been a big starting point and has done really well. But Zach Evans has been injured a lot this year. Already has 692 yards, really injury prone. But how about Jackson Dart, the running quarterback over the last couple of games? 539 yards on the ground, averaging 52 yards a game. This rushing attack we knew would be pretty good. And this was with an offensive line, gentlemen, that has not played incredibly well over the last couple of games. They've really turned it on. And, I'm really interested to see what happens on Saturday.
Look, man, it's funny, right? Lane Kiffin obviously has a method to his madness. I think going into the season, there obviously was a great back and forth on who's going to be the starting quarterback, whether it was Luke or whether it was Jackson. But I think one thing we should all appreciate is Lane Kiffin's ability to identify talent, identify the types of players that he wants in the offense that he's running. And if you really look at it, Jackson Dart is Matt Corral-ish. He's to me, he's a younger Matt Corral. And that's exactly how he's using them. He's having design quarterback runs with him, and when the play breaks down, nobody's open. Jackson Dart's able to go up and get those yards. One thing that I would like to see, obviously, and I know we're going to get into it, but I feel like this Alabama game is a game where, listen, they're going to try to stop the run. So I think Jackson Dart is really going to have to step up. Those receivers are really going to have to step up, and they have to put a complete game together. This is not the Alabama of traditional that we all think of with Nick Saban, but at the same time, this is a good Alabama team. They are young. They've got Bryce Young at the quarterback position at the helm, but they have to put a complete game together in order to win this one.
Shay, this is going to be a raucous environment. It's 2:30 CBS. I expect, obviously it's been announced to sell out crowd. Alex Collins, who handles a lot of the recruiting for Ole Miss, put out on social media that all of the recruit tickets are sold out as well. So this is going to be a game that's going to be chock full of Ole Miss fans. It's going to be, recruits all over the place. And it's a great opportunity for Ole Miss to show its brand. We saw it earlier in the year against Kentucky. We'll see it against Alabama. You made a good point last week, and I think it's something we need to talk about for a moment. Ole Miss has not historically had that home field advantage. Now, I do expect them to show up. I expect a raucous environment. But do you expect to see that type of LSU-ish, Auburn, Alabama-type atmosphere on Saturday?
I would say I'm praying for it. Lane kind of told the fans when we had, I think SEC Network was there or whatever. I think before Kentucky game, and he said something about the fans, and I call him the golden boy. He said it in a way that like he kind of knocked the fans, but he also encouraged the fans, like, prove me wrong. And I think that's where I'm at with it also, because they can be loud. Like at certain times, in big games, man, they're very, very loud. Is can we keep it going and always be that way instead of just a little clap here, a little clap there, yelling and screaming and being real diehard fans? I always say, like, as a coach, because I'm a coach, I always see the game different from a fan. I want the fans to be fans. Forget trying to analyze what's going on and what we should do and not do, man. Just cheer, just be all in for the team. And when it go bad, cheer. When it goes good, go crazy. Like that's what I want to see. And I know being a coach, that's what you want to see. Your fans being totally behind you, and like, just all 10 toes down for your team, and let the chips fall where they may. As the game go on.
And Mike, is this going to be a shake the bus type game? I'll never forget the story you told about going down to Baton Rouge and the LSU fans were shaking the bus. Is this going to be a shake the bus type game for Ole Miss?
It needs to be. Listen, this is Alabama. Listen, Ole Miss does not control their own destiny. We need to, and I know we're going to discuss this, but LSU needs to lose one. But in order for us to even have a chance with anything, we have to go out and handle our business. So from a fan perspective, like Shay said, man, you got to come out and literally be a fan, right? You got to go and be so loud. You have to be an element in the game. Like, I think that is something that, it's kind of hit or miss. Some games, the fans are an element, some games not. But, and also too, from a recruiting perspective, when you have recruits in that environment, in that element, the fans are going crazy. That kind of that raises the experience, right? And if that raises the experience, what do you think it does to those players on the field? It's the same thing. We are on that field. There is, to me, at least from my experience, there's like a level of silence, so to speak, right? Like when you're playing, you're in the game. But when those plays are over, man, you hear them, right? And it gets you up. It gets you excited. The fans got to bring it, period, for this game.
I know you guys have heard and seen all the numbers about the history with Alabama. I could go over the statistics about the series record with Alabama leading 56-10-2. I mean, it's definitely in the Crimson Tide's favor. One thing I did want to point out, over the last 10 years, 5 times Alabama's played a regular season game following a loss. They're 5-0. Alabama has lost back-to-back games since 2013. They haven't dropped back-to-back regular season games since Nick Saban's first year. Obviously, those numbers fall in line with Alabama really rallying after a loss. What's Ole Miss going to have to do, in your opinion, getting an Alabama team? Let's be honest. I don't know if their give a darn button has been pushed. Their season, for all intents and purposes, for the college football playoff is over, but it is Nick Saban. It's obviously a program that's very rich in tradition. What do you do? What do you prepare for if you're Lane Kiffin and this team, for a team coming off a loss down at Baton Rouge?
Control what you can control, man. It's like he teach the team. Most definitely Saban's going to come in. The team's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. I know he's told the team everything is still in their grasp. They always find a way to sneak themselves back in, normally year in and year out, being in the college playoff at the end. So I know he's told that to them, and I know they got a lot to play for, and then they're going to play mad because they just lost. Just ultimately, man, we just got to ride the highs and the lows. When you get a low, just keep on fighting, man. You just can't let the game get to you. You're gonna take some punches just like they watched those other games. I'm sure our team watched Alabama LSU play. I'm not gonna lie, as I said on the show last week, I didn't think LSU had a chance. But as we see, they believed in what they was doing, and they went out there and took care of the game plan, man. That's all you can do. The fans are gonna the atmosphere is gonna play a part in it, but you got to be even keeled as a player. Like, you get up with them, but you can't get down when you make a bad play, and just stay in the course, man. Control what you control. If you do your controllables, most of the time, if everybody on the team can do that, then it's most of the time it's going to come out a win.
Mike, same question to you. I mean, they're getting a really irritated Alabama team coming in on Saturday. Reb's got to be ready.
Look, we all, everybody on this podcast understands Alabama's gonna come. They're gonna be ready, right? Nick Saban has that team ready. I don't know that statistic that you put up about them not losing back to back, but we all know that. That's part of the reason why I was rooting for them to beat LSU, right? Because I didn't want to catch a Alabama team after a loss, right? But at the same time, we are a good team. So I think, for me, we've got to come in and we've got to have splash plays. Okay. When I say splash plays, we have to have that passing game be reinvigorated, as well as the running game. We need those splash plays. We need to play in front of the sticks. And we got to keep that Alabama offense and Bryce Young off the field. Right. And we got to protect the ball, period. Win the turnover battle. Because in my opinion, well, the analytics have said, if Alabama gets a turnover and they score, like, that can be demoralizing for an opposing team. At the same time, if things like that happen, like Chase said, you can't get up, you can't get down. You got to stay even keel. You got to be able to channel that and fight through adversity, and you got to go play a game.
actually two positions that have jumped out to me, and I had a chance to visit with someone about this earlier. I think two positions that are key for me to see if Ole Miss can solidify running the football is going to be the tackle positions in Micah Pettis and Jaden Williams. Both those positions, ironically, both freshmen. We saw them get, well, I don't know what you want to call it, beat pretty bad down in Baton Rouge. Obviously, I'm sure there's been some alterations. I'm sure they practiced and looked at game tape and all that good stuff. That's a position I think that Ole Miss is going to have to get shored up pretty quick with the Crimson Tide coming in. I thought they both played pretty well down in College Station. Ole Miss was able to open some pretty good running routes. So you would think that Jake Thornton had done some things as the offensive line coach. So any positions that you guys are going to be looking at that are going to have to be successful in order for Ole Miss to get the win on Saturday?
Without a doubt, the offensive line, I think as a fan, not breaking it down completely. Like I would say if Jackson Academy was playing, I would break down what's making us not be able to run the ball or what's making us not be able to throw the ball efficiently. So offensive lines want to get overlooked a lot of times, other than if you could just see somebody completely miss with a block. But for me, other than the offensive line, the quarterback and the receiver play, like being actually. And also Lane Kiffin, like being in his bag is what I'll call it, like being a step ahead of the play call, putting them in great positions. I know they have the talent, but also the element of surprise is a big thing too. Like having a variation of saying you run this play every game, every on this down, you always run it. Man, have something in your bag that's going to trick them and get a big play out of it. We're going to have to get a lot of big players, I believe, to beat this team, even though I don't think Alabama is that explosive on offense. Other than the two running backs, I don't see a lot of explosiveness from the pass game. So I think us being able to jump on them early and them not being able to have the firepower, other than like Bryce Young is really good, but like none of those receivers have set themselves apart to the point of you got to be like, man, they can strike us at any moment. Other than them getting a run play, they can strike us fast. So I think big plays, our quarterback and our receivers have to come out this game and like find a way to come up with some huge plays. And I know we got it in our arsenal. I know we have it talent-wise, just being able to call it at the right time and being able to hit that play and because you only probably going to get one chance at it. Trying to come back to it or something, it's probably not going to happen. So basically, Lane Kiffin, mind and what he's thinking in this game plan, and the receivers and the quarterback and the receivers playing up the par to generate those big plays we're going to need to beat a team like Alabama.
Mike, any particular position you're looking at?
Listen, I agree 100% with everything Shay said. There's one thing I will add to that, and that is our defensive coordinator, the defensive strategy, and containing Bryce Young. Mm-hmm. Listen, we know Bryce Young is special in the pocket. But he's especially special when he creates more time and he gets out of the pocket. That is what allows, from what I've seen, a lot of those receivers to make those big plays, right? When Bryce Young gets out, escapes the pocket, receivers go upfield or do whatever, and Bryce Young hits them on a strike. We've got to eliminate that because our coverage, we can have great coverage, but if he starts to do that and hits those big splash plays, again, that could be another demoralizing thing. So I say the ability to contain Bryce Young.
Yeah,
I got another one. Hang on,
Brad.
My bad. No, the key to this game, let me stop being so offensive. The key to this game, will we be able to stop their down here run game? I know they're going to come with two tight ends. They're going to play spread, shotgun at least. Two tight ends and running it down our throat like LSU did. That's the same thing they did last year and gave people the formula of how to slow us down as far as like getting the ball on offense. So I guess you would say the whole defense. I would say the D-line or the secondary, but we play that that three safety look. So I don't know how we're going to play this, but I know they're going to come out there with a two tight end set and try to run it down here, running duo and dive type plays at us. And can we limit the yards on first and second down to make them a passing team? So I think the biggest key is what is our defense going to do? Mm-hmm. Are they going to slow that run game down? Because they're going to come with a power run game.
Jameer Gibbs, transfer out of Georgia Tech, is a great running back, and to me has been incredibly special. He's been tough to handle.
2.0.
Yeah,
he is nice. He's nice.
Yeah, he's going to be in the league, and I think one thing, gentlemen, that is Cedric Johnson going to be able to go? The right defensive end for Ole Miss has been dealing with a right ankle injury, and Mike, you nailed it for me. if Bryce Young is allowed to get outside the pocket and get some separation from the defensive backs, from those wide receivers, that's going to play difficult for Ole Miss. Is he going to run? Does Ole Miss decide to put a spy on him? That's something Chris Partridge, the defensive coordinator, is going to have to decide to do, because if he gets outside the pocket and Ole Miss cannot contain Young, he is a threat with his legs. Another thing is, how healthy is Bryce Young? We saw him a little bit, questionable against LSU. So many questions coming into this game. But I think defensively for Ole Miss is, we saw what Jaden Daniels did to the Ole Miss defense, specifically in the second half. Yeah. They didn't put pressure on him. They only rushed 4, and Ole Miss couldn't get through, and he just tore Ole Miss's defense apart. What's going to happen on Saturday? Are they going to sit back and allow Bryce Young to cook, or are they going to come after him? We'll just have to wait and see. Those are positions I thought were interesting. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that to see what might have to happen. If the Rebels get the ball first, I think the key, and we'll talk about real quick our 3 keys to victory for Ole Miss. Real quick for mine, get the ball, score first, and try to keep Alabama's offense off the field as much as you can to control that time of possession. So scoring as quickly as possible, getting the time of possession, and number 3, it's a big ask, is try to control Gibbs as much as you can and do your best and try to control that Alabama rushing attack. I don't know if Ole Miss can do it, but if they get those 3 keys, I think Ole Miss has a great chance of winning this game. Mike, what do you think?
To follow that, I said it earlier, protect the ball, right? Don't give Alabama something easy. Don't give them an easy interception. Don't give them an easy fumble where they can come over and change the whole game around and put up 6 when that doesn't need to happen. So protect the ball. Adjustments, right? And we all know that Alabama is a great team at adjustments, especially throughout the game. And then after coming out of halftime, and I think that our best game in the second half was A&M, right? If you really look at, I don't know what the statistics say, but I would say beyond that, we really hadn't come out in the second half.
No,
and just been a dominant team all year.
That's a good point, Mike.
So I would say that and play in front of the sticks and win the third down ratio. And that, if we do that, that's a formula of keeping Bryce Young and the Alabama offense off the field.
Shay, your 3 keys for an Ole Miss win on Saturday?
I think number 1 is getting ahead early, like you said. That's number 1. I don't think we can control the time of possession, even though we run the ball. We play so fast, So I think more realistically is getting ahead early, trying to make them one-dimensional. And if you're going to run it, look, you're gonna not have you won't have a lot of time on the clock, as the game keeps going on and getting closer to the end. Number 2, I'll do it both ways. Stop the run and being able to run it.
Yeah.
Can we stop their run early on to make them passers? And can we run it? Can we control the game on the ground? And then number 3, can we make big plays? Making huge plays is going to be offense and defense. Creating a turnover, and how many big explosive plays can we make? I think this team, watching Alabama pretty closely, I think they're set up for they're the type of team that'll give up big plays. Like I feel like Josh Heupel and Lane Kiffin them have some of the same coaching tree as far as like the Baylor type offense and stuff. And I think that bothers what Alabama does on defense and how Tennessee was able to get some big plays. So I think he would piggyback off of what he's seen against them and try to use that against them. And figuring out a way to get big plays, I think we can do it. And if we can make that happen, I think those are the 3 keys to defense. 3 keys to victory.
Yeah. And you know what, kind of piggybacking off what you and Mike said a little bit earlier, if Alabama does, in fact, stifle this rushing attack from Ole Miss, it's going to put a lot of pressure on quarterback Jackson Dart. If that's the case, then that secondary, or Ole Miss is going to have to get some separation from that defensive backfield from Alabama, and that's going to put more pressure on Jackson Dart. The receivers are going to have to step up. So interesting. We got a few minutes left. So appreciate you guys jumping on and talking about some keys to victory. Before we let you go, our Rebel Rewind segment today brought to you by Bet Online. Mike, want to come to you first. Want to get your number 1 highlight from when you played the Crimson Tide back when you wore the red and blue for the Ole Miss Rebels.
All right. I would say sophomore year, 2003. We beat Alabama 43-28. It was before we started getting up big, it was a We got a turnover, and it was a pivotal point in the game. Excuse me, we didn't get a turnover. We stopped them, and they punted the ball. They punted the ball to us, and I housed it. I went up around the right sideline, but they said I stepped out of bounds at like the 15. But needless to say, that was a big critical moment in the game, and that propelled us, and our momentum just was rolling, man, and we beat them 43-28.
Momentum, always a big key. And I remember that game very, very well. You guys played really well that day and beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. Shay, coming to you, what's a game and maybe a couple of plays that you remember in your days as a Rebel against the Alabama Crimson Tide?
I give two since one of them didn't count. That everybody remember in 2007. Making the big play at the end of the game with probably like less than 10 seconds ago. You know, they said I stepped out of bounds after coming in. I think getting pushed out of bounds, you know, and coming back in, making the grab and thinking that was my first big time play that I made in college, only for it to get overturned, you know, and just knowing how I felt and how the team felt and how the fans felt, you know, that was a memory I think Ole Miss will never forget. And going the other way with it, my junior year, I just like the touchdown that I had against Javier Arenaz just because he was a big time competitor. That was a big time team. I think they was ranked in the top 10 at that time. May was number one. They beat us by 4. And I just remember having a touchdown early in the game, a back shoulder fade. It was real tight coverage, you know, me being able to separate from him, catching. And it was actually, I think it was on my birthday. And I remember saying something to him, like, I like to talk noise when I play. People just don't know that, but I was like secretive with it. So once I caught it, you know, I said it to his ear. I was like, yeah, you can't hold me. You can see it if you really pay attention. But if you wasn't, you wouldn't have seen it. So that was one of the biggest plays. I mean, one of the big plays I liked against Alabama. And we played them close, lost at the end. I think like with a minute to go, lost 24-20.
And Shay, let me speak for all of the hundreds of thousands of Ole Miss fans across the country. That was a terrible call back in 2007. And I've got a red shoe that got thrown on the field to prove it, that everybody disagreed with that call. Right. You know, going back to that day, I'll never forget watching that. And take us through that play, if you would, just for a moment. You were pushed out of bounds, but the official said that you went out of bounds on your own. Kind of walk us through that play.
You know, lined up on the left side, you know, going toward, I don't know my east and west, north and south side right there, but like going towards the home.
You were going towards the south end zone.
There you go, the south end zone. I didn't even realize during the play that I got pushed out. You know, one thing I knew was I ran, you know, I got about 15, 20 yards down the field. It was like 4th and 20 something, I think, maybe 30 something. And I just remember looking back and seeing that the ball was inside. And the only thing I thought in my head, man, get to this ball, man. However the way, any type of way I get this ball, just get to this ball. And I was able to shit him off, put myself in front of him. And he actually caught it first. So I feel like it should have been it should have went our way 2 times. Because one, he pushed me out of bounds, shielded me out of bounds. Then the second part is he caught the ball first, and I was just able to almost simultaneously catch it. And then as we rolled up, I just snatched it from him and got up, and I was like, man, how did I do this? But thank you, guys. I stood up like, man, here you go. We finna win this game. But then, you know, when it took so long on that replay, I was like, yeah, I know this was about to get overturned because it wouldn't take that long if they wasn't going to overturn it. So that was a great, a quick high and a fast low, you know, right then and there, man. So something I'll never forget.
It was a heck of a play and one that we'll always remember, and we will always say that it was a touchdown pass no matter what anybody has to say. I don't care what any official has to say. He's Mike Espy. He's Shay Hodge, 2 former Ole Miss greats, and we appreciate him being part of the Believe in Ole Miss podcast. And what I like to say is the Mike and Shay Show right here on the Believe in Ole Miss podcast and the Believe Network. Gentlemen, thanks a lot. Look forward to talking with you after the game next week. It's Ole Miss in Alabama, 2:30 on CBS Sports. It's a big one in Oxford, and we look forward to recapping it with you next week.
Howdy toddy.
Howdy toddy.
Thank you for watching Believe. You can find more great content at Believe.com. That's BLEAV.com. Do you believe?